For self-defense, it doesn't matter if you hit somebody in the arm. It doesn't matter if you hit somebody in the gut, or you go through some other fleshy part of their body. You have to hit them in a place that's going to incapacitate the threat and stop the threat. You don't want to be thinking, oh, I've got 13 rounds, 15 rounds, so it doesn't matter, I can just keep shooting till I hit the threat, because you may never hit the threat. I think that's because they trained to hit what they were shooting at with every single shot. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Magnum channel. I'm going to be doing a video today on a subject I'm going to call the degradation of marksmanship. And I had a recent conversation with Greg Newton from LionQuest Fitness and another YouTuber that doesn't make videos, but they're based in Europe. And we were talking about calibers for not for self-defense as much, but it ties in with that. We were talking about calibers in general, militaries, things like that. And so I wanted to do a quick video on, like I said, on what I call the degradation of marksmanship. And so this is a phenomenon that's been experienced both on the civilian realm and in the military and police realm. And I'm going to bring a couple of facts to the fight here. And so what it is it's the degradation of marksmanship is a phenomenon where people as a whole, whether they're military, whether they're police, whether they're civilian, whoever they might be, they have made a change in taking deliberate aimed fire at something to kind of spraying and praying, not always spraying and praying, but their marksmanship has gone way downhill, it's plummeted, and with that comes a demand for higher capacity. And so on the, we'll address the military realm first. So on the military realm, you see this in the hit ratios that changed during Vietnam and things like that. We changed from the time-tried and tested 30 caliber rifle. The U.S. had always used 30 caliber rifles. Before that, I guess not always. They'd changed, but always from something bigger. The Civil War, you had these huge rounds. Then they switched to the 45-70. Then they started switching into the 30 caliber rifles. So for a long time, World Wars, I think we can all agree that the 30 caliber rifle has been the staple of small arms fire in World Wars. And it's a very, very proven round. You put a 30-06 into somebody's chest and the fight is over. So, but the military has switched to a smaller round, the 5.56. NATO has switched to that. And one of the reasons they have is because of this phenomenon of degradation of marksmanship. And so with that change, they wanted higher capacity because soldiers were no longer with a fully automatic rifle. They weren't taking deliberate aimed fire at enemies anymore. And so what they found was that the number of rounds fired downrange per number of enemies hit went way up. There was a lot of rounds being fired and not very many people being hit. And so when you have that happening, it makes sense to switch to a cheaper, more economical caliber for the military in order to save money, to save lead. Why be throwing 180 grain bullets downrange when you can be throwing a 55 grain bullet downrange, especially when you're going to be doing it in at least burst mode or fully automatic fire mode. And so the issue is that people then think, well, the military switched to a 5.56, so that must be a superior round. And it's not. You have to understand the reasons why they switched to that round. And so this is just one of those pet peeves of mine that you hear somebody talking about an AR-15 versus a 308 or whatever, and it's not at all that a 308 is not a good choice if the military switch because an AR-15 is superior. I think anybody that has been hunting, anybody that has been in the service, things like that, there's certainly people that like the AR-15, they got along fine with the AR-15. I was talking to Mr. Cool in a video not too long ago, and he had commented that when he was in the Army, his M16 did everything he needed it to do, and so they do work. It's just that that doesn't mean that the military switched that way because it's a superior round, and I think we can all agree that the 308 is definitely a heavier hitter, definitely has a better service record than anything chambered in 5.56 or 2.23. And so along with that, before I make this video too long, I'm going to address that on the civilian side is semi-automatic versus revolver. And so a lot of people, there's the age-old debate of whether or not 5 shots is enough in a semi-auto or in a revolver, so in a subcompact revolver versus a semi-automatic. And I could make the case that the really, really small semi-automatics that are going to be smaller than what you would carry with a 5-shot revolver, that maybe I could just say that are typical of what people would carry, typically are not very many more than 5. So 6 shots, you know, I think the Ruger LCP, a lot of people carrying 380s out there, those are generally 6, maybe 7 shot guns. You say, well, hey, you know, 7 shots is 2 more than a 5-shot revolver, but when that revolver is 38 Special plus P or 357 Magnum versus a 380, yeah, there's a significant difference there in 5 versus 7 shots. And so anyway, on that civilian side of it, I wanted to address some things. And the first one is Jim Cirillo. So if you guys haven't seen this, I would recommend this book, but just understand that this book does have a lot of profanity in it. The guy who wrote the book wanted to write it as Jim Cirillo told the stories, but people like Jim Cirillo as a Smith & Wesson Model 10 pictured on the front of the book there. And I mean, this guy, so it's an interesting story. Jim Cirillo and his squad, they always train to use their sights, and he was a big guy for using the sights. But they did amazing things with 6-shot revolvers. Now, in their stakeouts, they did sometimes need extra ammunition, and so they would usually, that's where they got the coined the term the New York reload, because they would just pull another gun. And he said that we never really worried about teaching our guys reloads because basically there wasn't time. In fact, there's not even going to be much time in the kind of shootouts they had to reload a semi-automatic. They were so fast and furious, when you ran out of bullets, it was time to go hand-to-hand with these guys. And most of the time it didn't come to that, but on some occasions they would have to shoot somebody and their gun would run dry, and if they didn't have another gun, then it was time to start the fist fight up and hope that his wounds would cause him to give up sooner. But they did amazing things with 6 shots, and it wasn't just him. He had a partner that was also a really good shot. For every story they have where they had to shoot somebody multiple times in order to incapacitate the threat or stop the threat, they also have stories where they shot somebody one time with a lead round nose 38 Special, and it just killed them right there, dead on the spot. And then you have people like, second one I have is Bill Jordan. So if you've not read him, this is another great book to read. And again, yeah, he was a fantastic shot, but he also had successors. He has people that he taught to shoot the same way he did, and he was a real fast draw and a shooter, and he could hold a ping pong ball on the back of his hand and go for his gun and shoot the ping pong ball before it hit the ground. And so this is just my rant. The point of it is the name of the book is No Second Place Winner, and of saying no second place winner is that in a gunfight there is no second place winner. If you come in second place, you're dead, or you're incapacitated, or whatever. You're not in a good place. And so the biggest thing is that you need to be accurate, and so capacity is not a substitute for accuracy. And this is something we've seen more and more as time goes on. There was a shooting, you know, here or there or wherever, and the subject was shot, 13 times, or the attacker was shot 13 times, and a lot of times they live. And I think that is indicative of, again, the substitution of numbers, quantity, for quality shooting. And it's not a good trade, because in a lot of situations that can get you killed, especially in a concealed carry role when you don't have that many rounds. If you're carrying a small single stack semi-automatic 9mm, which is very, very popular these days, you don't have many shots to miss. And so you need all those shots to count, especially because it's 9mm. It's not exactly known as being a powerhouse of a round, and you're going to need those shots to connect with where you want. And the last book I have here is by the infamous Elmer Keith. This is 6 Guns by Elmer Keith. And again, somebody else that's absolutely famous for their marksmanship and for that school of thought. And he was a big one to promote the one-shot stop. He was always saying a police officer desperately needs a cartridge that will put an attacker down with one well-placed shot. A key word there being well-placed. You can't just put a shot anywhere. You need it to be a well-placed shot. And so his definition of that was pretty much your belly button up to the top of your head. As long as it's pretty much in the center, anywhere in there should pretty much shut you down. And he had hand-loaded 44 special rounds, his own heavy 44 special rounds, where he had seen good results with those, and he had loaned those out to police officers that were friends of his. But the point I'm making with all of this is that I'm basing my own philosophies on factual accounts. Okay, these were people that actually lived. Some of them were actually in gunfights. Others actually knew people that were in gunfights. Okay, so this isn't internet hearsay. This isn't me guessing. One other thing I want to interrupt myself really quick and interject is that these guys did it. The guys that I just showed in those books, you know, they talk the talk and they walk the walk. Bill Jordan, Elmer Keith, Jim Cirillo, they all did it. They would talk about marksmanship. They would teach point shooting, and I don't believe in the philosophy that, you know, I know that when you're rattled and you're trying to shoot to save your own life, that there is definitely a lot of stress on you. I don't think that means that your shooting has to go out the window and that you're not going to be able to hit the broadside of a barn, because that is not what happened to them. They trained, and you will shoot like you train. You may shoot like you would train on your worst day. So on your worst day of training, that may be looking like what your shooting is going to look like. But these guys absolutely did it. Bill Jordan and like some of the guys that he trained had incredible marksmanship when lives were on the line. And that can certainly be said of Jim Cirillo. I mean, the targets and the size of the targets that they were able to hit under stress is absolutely incredible. And I don't think that that's any miracle. I don't think that's because they were lucky. I think that's because they trained, and they trained to hit what they were shooting at with every single shot. But the fact of the matter is that 5 shots is more than enough, and that's been proven time and time again in those books, that you can get it done with 5 and 6 shots. And the reason that people don't is because of the degradation of marksmanship. And so people want higher capacity. They always want higher capacity because they're afraid that they'll miss, or they're afraid, or they'll know they'll miss. Maybe they're just a bad shot altogether. And so anyway, it's just a rant I have. Don't subscribe to that theory. I hate to see people substitute that, and it doesn't have to be that way. I've also seen shootings where police officers with modern high-capacity semi-automatic pistols have fired only 2 or 3 shots and incapacitated the threat. And that's what you want to see, because what that means is that they were hitting what they were shooting at, and they weren't hitting them in the leg, they weren't hitting them in the gut, they weren't hitting all these random places that are no good. You know, for self-defense, it doesn't matter if you hit somebody in the arm, it doesn't matter if you hit somebody in the gut, or, you know, you go through some other fleshy part of their body. You have to hit them in a place that's going to incapacitate the threat and stop the threat. And you know, at the end of the day, you know, marksmanship is a big part of that. So, you know, you want to train to hit your target no matter how many rounds you have. You don't want to be thinking, oh, I've got, you know, 13 rounds, 15 rounds, so, you know, it doesn't matter, I can just keep shooting until I hit the threat, because you may never hit the threat. You know, you need to be as best as you can possibly be with your firearm. I'm agreed with the philosophy of Bill Jordan had. He taught his guys to point shoot at very close range. So for me personally, I'm not really going to be using my sights much under, unless you're trying to make a headshot or something like that, I'm probably not even going to be using my sights under 7 yards. So at 21 feet or less, you need to know how to point your gun very well, says me, and says Bill Jordan. So anyway, this has just been my rant on the degradation of marksmanship, and it's a phenomenon that, in my opinion, is not a good thing. I can see how it's changed with the face of war, and I understand they do what they have to do, but there's still a lot of M14s, a lot of .308 caliber rifles being used in militaries, specifically because there's times when they need to get the job done, and they know that a .223 or a .556 just isn't going to do it. So, next time you think about a 5-shot revolver being not enough or woefully underpowered, maybe you need to reevaluate your own shooting skills and whether or not you can stop the threat at close range, like you're likely to encounter a self-defense situation. Anyway, guys, that's about it for today. Appreciate you guys watching. This video is already longer than I wanted it to be, but check out the link to my Facebook page and my playlists. I always appreciate new subscribers, like and comment, and I'll catch you guys later.